work you have done. You tell me whether my network is good because I'm not in office, I'm not home. I'm somewhere where I'm having a residential workshop, so it's a new place. If my network becomes bad, please just alert me. uh, Today we are looking at bonding with children. Let me share a few of my slides. Susan, are you hearing me?
Yes, doctor. Can hear you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not going to share my video because I want us to focus on some of the things that I've put together. Faith Musinguzi, once again, is my name, and the rest, Susan has introduced me. Maybe to add on, I am a mother, 3 girls and 1 boy. And the girls are 19, 17, 14, and the boy 10 years. I know that some of you who are mothers of babies see that that is too much achievement, but for us, we are just starting in the journey of parenting and bonding. Parenting is permanent. You never, I know if I told my mother, for instance, that I am sick, she would have sleepless nights. So parenting is forever. Even if you have a 1-month-old baby and the other one has teenagers and the other one has youth and the other one has grandchildren, they all have their different concerns, which are too big to them. Okay. So bonding with children, I want to say that I'm going to be mixing bonding and attachment and bonding, because those words are, for the purpose of this presentation, they will be used as if they are the same, because they are not very much different from each other. So I will give some background. So bonding is a unique relationship between 2 people for a long time. And today I'm going to focus on bonding with children. And there are a number of theories, a number of studies that have been done to talk about bonding. But if to make it wider, there is also bonding between people who are in a romantic relationship, bonding with other people. So, but today we focus on parenting, on children. So it's a unique relationship between 2 people for a long time. It's a close relationship between a child and mother. Most of the research that I did, it was really talking about mother and child, and I'm going to say why. This is not to mean that men don't bond, they do. And so, but there are some things that are done by women, for instance, that men don't do, for example, breastfeeding. And yet that is very important in the bonding process. So for bonding to happen, there should be attachment. As we go on, we are going to realize that some of us actually didn't bond with our parents, or even up to now, not. And maybe to say that my other profession is that I'm a counseling psychologist, I have met a number of teenagers who have told me things and they say, don't tell mommy. And sometimes you feel like, I think mommy should know this. Don't tell my mother. One day I listened to a conversation of some young people at my home. They were together with mine. So yes. And one girl said, I am going to teach my mother a lesson. My mother is so tough, is so strict, and all that. And so I needed to tell the mother, but I feared because now the mother would, because she's tough. I knew and I know. So that means she would have attacked the girl. But we dealt ourselves, because I knew that that was not easy. We tried to find out why, and that was settled. So they okay. But that is very many years ago, about 6. So for bonding to happen, there should be attachment. Bonding is maternal driven in the first year of the baby. When a baby is born, for mothers who have got biological babies, the first thing they do is they put the baby on either the chest, the stomach, depending on where you give birth from. And the process of bonding begins through breastfeeding, through cuddling, holding the baby, and all that. and the process begins. Of course, there are children who are born and their mothers are not there because of many issues. Maybe they pass on. They also get caregivers. So the caregivers are expected to give love, to care as the mother would. Or even some mothers are there, but they don't care. They don't know how to hold babies. Some of them are teenage mothers, or others have got babies they reject and all that. So as we continue to look at bonding and giving an introduction, that people are born with a need to forge bonds with caregivers. It is nature, it is natural for us to want to bond, and for babies, of course. I tried to read about bonding between animals, and between the animals, the mother animals and their offspring. And it is true that they are also born with an innate need to bond. And I read about elephants, that they really bond with their calves. I read about chimpanzees. I read about, among the birds, I enjoyed most the chicken, the mother chicken, mother hen, with the way it covers its little ones, the chicks. Even if they are 15, they will all fit in, it will cover them. Or when there's something to threaten, the mother will make some noise and the chicks will run to hide. She hides them. So it is natural for both humans and animals. So attachment is an emotional bond with another person. I'm trying to give more details on what attachment is. And I want to say again that I'm going to be saying attachment and bonding, they're the same. But I brought out attachment intentionally because I want to bring out the theory of attachment, what it talks about. So attachment serves to keep infants close to the mother caregiver. Caregiver can be daddy, it can be in an institution, and that specific person who is looking after the little child. Bonds of children and parents have an impact on their life. Many of us in our adulthood, we are facing challenges because of our earlier childhood. This is not to say to begin to hate yourself, that why am I like this? Because some of the situations are beyond our control. We didn't have what to do about them. But many of the problems, relational problems we are having among teenagers, youth, and adults is because they did not get proper attachment or proper bonding with the parents. And we are going to see why. Just to also talk about the Bible, because it is the book that we have to refer to when everything else fails, the Bible doesn't fail. I thought about reading Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6 to 9. And this is what it says. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. I am interested more in verse 7. Because by the time you are given such an instruction, it means you should be a caregiver or a parent who is with the child all the time. That is the assumption. But is it the same today? You have to have a child in the morning in the house when you sit down. When you walk on the road, meaning there are those moments you walk, maybe you can walk with them to school and bring them back, but that is not very possible for many, especially those who are listening to me. Or when you lie down or when you get up. This is what I get, that this is some form of bonding. By the time you guide your child to that level, there should be some relationship, some bonding, or else you are not doing it. And I see in these modern times, we have many challenges that are causing us not to bond with our children. Even if it is a baby loves to be carried, a baby loves to be held in the chest, a baby loves to feel the warmth of the mother. She loves or he loves to listen to the voice of the mother because that the baby will feel safe. But many times a baby is put aside these days. Babies are driven separately, so they will not have the skin to skin with the mother. Some of them, as soon as they are born, they are put in their beds. This, I am not saying this is wrong, but I'm trying to say the baby misses the skin, the warmth, the niceness, in my words, of the mother. So Deuteronomy 6, 6 to 9 is trying to tell us that the parent has to be available for a child. The caregiver has to be available for a child in their house, the road, as they lie down, and as they get up. To go on with another scripture that I got encouraged about, for me, this is a relationship with God. You may have not bonded well with parents because of many reasons. Maybe the parents were fighting each other and then they never gave you time. Maybe the parents are studying, you gave birth to you when they're studying. Maybe the parents have traveled to Dubai and elsewhere to find some way of living. There is what we call Isaiah 41:10, which is to do with the relationship with God. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed. I am your God. I'll strengthen you and help you. I'll uphold you with my righteous right hand. So you can see that God is in loves to be connected to us. And if we only knew this, we would not be stressed. Would know, especially if we are passing over the past. I didn't have time with my mother. I didn't have time with my father. I didn't have time with my grandparents. But God has time for you, too much time. And there are many more scriptures. Now, there are a number of attachments. Of course, I try to make it brief so that it doesn't look like it's a lecture. There are two people. One was called Bobby and the other one, Ainsworth. Ainsworth was a woman. And they tried to come up with different types of attachments. Bowlby started and Ainsworth built on what Bowlby had done. You can find them on the internet. There are about 4 types of attachments. So one is called secure attachment. This is when a child feels warmth from the parents, the warm relationship, what I'm trying to say. The parent is loving, the parent breastfeeds, the parent holds the baby, kind, not, now I'm looking at the younger ones, but even the older ones, a parent is loving. And this helps the child to form healthy relationships when they grow up. There are very many other theories, by the way, talking about the child who has not got love. Even when you look at Sigmund Freud, also says the first stage, oral stage, where a child is breastfeeding the mother. So when a child misses that stage, then they get what we call fixation. Many of us use the word fixation wrongly, but fixation is having missed an earlier stage. And then also the other one also called Eric Erickson talks about the first stage, about 0 to 1 year or 2, that a child who misses love from the mother, from the caregiver, but majorly the mother, is not going to have trust. It's going to mistrust everyone. So securely attached children have got the love, they trust. If mommy loves me, even if she goes away, I know she'll come back. That's what they think. Have you had some of you young mothers, when you're leaving the house, a child has to cry, and you know what you do? You go and hide, and you escape from the child. When you escape from the child, a child is going to think something bad has happened to mommy because mommy was just here and suddenly mommy is not there. Because you just ran out. I remember I also did it at one time until I learned some of this. Just remove your shoes and rush outside without a child hearing. By the time the child looks around, the mother is not there. This is extremely dangerous. The child will not feel safe Mommy has just been here, and then she has gone away, and then she comes after 8 hours. But a child who is loved, a child, that's why some parents will just tell a child, Mommy going to work, Mommy goes to work, Mommy tells the child bye, bye, and then the child says bye, and then the child is confident that Mommy has gone to work, Mommy is coming back. So a securely attached child will not mind when you're leaving. An insecurely attached child will cry, will scream, will pull your skirt or your trousers, whatever, because they are not safe. So sometimes we think it's, I wanted to say it in vernacular in a way, but that we are, maybe a child is pampered. No, a child has a right to be loved by you, to be given presence, to be. I remember one friend, an American friend, one time said, "But you Africans, if you don't have time for children, why do you even produce them?" It's people didn't take it rightly, but I think he was trying to say, if you want to have children, sit down and raise them. This is challenging me, it is challenging you. I am not putting myself as being the best. So the point is, secure attachment is when a child is going through a loving and warm relationship with a caregiver, with a mother, or even with these young girls that we leave as children with. Did you know that some of these young girls, they are young, first of all? You know, you leave a child with somebody who is 14 years or 16, and that is child labor. Or some of them, there was a research that was done that nobody loves to be a maid. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a maid in the future. Some of them, it is because they lacked school fees, or their marriage failed, or the poverty. It's like everything bad around them, and the last resort is coming to hold you, baby. So they are also lacking. They also need counseling. They also need love. They also need attention. They also need attachment. And then you leave them with your baby. We leave them with the baby. And then we come after 8 hours. Whatever has taken place, we have no idea. But you will tell, yes, a child who is not secure and attached will give you signs. They'll cry unnecessarily. They'll pull your dress. I had a daughter who would pull my dresses every time I go, and she would show, whenever I would be sleeping, she would want to sleep in my chest like she's seeing something scary. Until a neighbor one day told me that, you know, the moment you leave the house, your maid also leaves the house. So the girl would be alone in the house. So she was traumatized. So we need to listen to children. Okay, the other type of attachment is anxious ambivalent. Now almost the opposite of the securely attached child. They don't trust caregivers. Why? Because caregivers have hurt them in one way or the other. They are fearful of their surroundings. They feel unloved even in their adulthood. You can imagine you might be struggling with, if you're married, with a husband who was not loved when they were young. Or if there are men here, I checked with the participants later, that you might be struggling with a wife who is not trusting, who feels unloved, even if you give love and you want to die for them. Why? Because the problem was when they were young. So what is important, of course, is to acknowledge that maybe I am like this because I went through this. And then you help yourself to understand, or you forgive yourself, or you go for counseling. So they distrust caregivers, they're fearful of their surroundings, they are emotionally dependent in adulthood. Too emotional. These are anxious, ambivalent. They are confusing. The parent is tough, spanks them, and the same parent is hugging them. So they don't know whether it is love or hate, or violence or love. They are confused. And many of us, in the name of African mothers, like, yes, some people do. They think a child should listen to what a parent says, which I agree with you. But sometimes a child also needs to listen to. Sometimes they are crying out for help. They're telling you something dangerous that is happening and all that. So the other one is avoidant attachment. Now, this type of attachment, the child avoids because they have always wanted their needs to be met, and they have not been met, and they are now used. You go to work and you come back and the child is not willing to hug you. Sometimes you reach out your arms and the child refuses. Or it doesn't show any difference. You find them seated playing with their toys. They don't show that you have arrived. Because they have cried and looked for you and you are not, and they are now used to the situation and they don't change at all. So these are, they accept that their emotional needs are not likely to be met, even if they cry. You have had, you might have seen some of you, but me, I did, where some people believe that a child should stay there, they'll cry and keep quiet by themselves. I lived near a daycare one time. Somebody was trying to do daycare in his home, and the children would cry. One day I sat and listened because that dad was sick and stayed in the house. The child cried, were twins. They cried from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., crying non-stop. And they were just crying on the veranda sitting. So such a child, if he or she does that for weeks, then they give up and they know that there's no more love. Let me manage my life. And so, but that will have an effect on their life in future. They grow feeling unloved and insignificant. So these are also like ones who are ambivalent. And then we have the disorganized attachments. These avoid intimate relationships as adults. They showed intense anger and rage. This is according to Bowlby and Ainsworth, and I know that we could have seen it from our own experiences. They have so much anger and rage. They'll break toys, find them sometimes looking violent if they are young. They can't control their emotions. They are difficult. They have difficult relationships with caregivers. So of all these 4 types that I've talked about, the best is the first one. All the others are not good, especially when it comes to the future. What happens to, who are those who have no bonding or less bonding? And this I read as I prepared, that children who are raised in institutions usually have no much bonding. Why? Because in institutions, there are so many of them. And by the way, this is also the same in daycare. You know, you can take, they call them toddlers. They can be 40 toddlers and about 4 teachers. They're not going to give them, they're not going to carry them, to hold them, because they're overwhelmed. But look here, friends, if you yourself cannot have one child at home, or if me myself cannot have one child at home, and I take a child to daycare, the teacher or the babysitter cannot manage to take care of all of them. And so then they will lack that love, that hugging, and all that. So because of the situation that the parents are going through, and also the school or daycare centers. Then also quality of caregiving. Sometimes who is giving the care? I fear to see, much as I'm a psychologist, I don't view violence. I don't view violent videos. There are some of these, and so people have been telling me there are some of those videos where a maid is mistreating a child. So some children are going through hard time with caregivers. Again, I told you that these are people who are not experienced, and these are people who are in pain. These are people who are depressed. There are some of them who are good, of course, but I'm looking at, even if the whole Uganda, they are good maids, but I'm looking at that one maid who has their own challenges and the child is suffering in their care. So the quality of care will make a child to have bonding or no bonding. One day a child was wetting the bed and the baby was 6 months old. And the mother would beat the baby like she's beating a 15-year-old. But even if it was a 15-year-old wetting the bed, why do you think beating would work? Because it's not the child's, the child is not in control. But now this woman would make a 6-month-old baby to cry because they are wetting the bed. I did not understand that. Sometimes also the type of parenting, much as I'm not talking about parenting today, but they're about 4 parenting styles. We have the authoritarian, that So there are about 4 or even more. There's authoritarian, authoritative, and then there's permissive, which they call laissez-faire, and also neglectful parenting. So a child who has gone through authoritarian, for instance, authoritarian is, I can put in brackets, when the caregiver is a dictator, a caregiver believes in spanking, a caregiver believes in a child following rules, does not necessarily have to be an example. The caregiver doesn't have to be an example, but wants rules to be followed. And so there's no bonding, there's no love, there's no, and maybe their belief is a child should be spanked. Please, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat in case, or even your experiences. So, but what I'm trying to say that the type of parenting also will cause a child to bond with a parent or caregiver or not. If the parent is a type who any small thing they give a hot slap, the child has poured water accidentally and the child is beaten, the parents forget that they is a child. Okay, career and yes, work. Some people also working for. So work makes someone to not to have time. Some people go back, especially now here in Kampala, Mukono. Leaving Kampala to Mukono from 5, you may arrive home at 8, 9. That is if home is Mukono. Or depending on the routes you're going, some of them have more traffic congestion than others. So you find that the child doesn't get to see the parent. Parent goes at 5, parent comes at 9. There's no, and when the parent comes, they are rushing through homework or they are telling kids to sleep so fast because the children have to sleep so that they wake up early to go to school. So career, what type of work, what type of business? Of course, not everyone goes to office, but people are also having businesses that are keeping them away. Or others have traveled far, Dubai and all, and have left children. Long distance marriage and long distance jobs. And also culture. One time, not one time, many times, I have seen when you go in a taxi, it is the child that they make to sit on what in quotes I call kameme. You know, this whole attitude of a child, the child doesn't deserve much. A child can stand, cannot sit. A child can sit on the smallest, poorest chair. So that also happens within the relationship. A child doesn't talk back. Just today, I'm in a conference and there was an example. Of course, this was public, because an example they gave that a child told the teacher, that teacher, you have made a mistake. And the teacher punished the child. But the child was speaking the truth. But now our culture is you don't talk back to an adult. You don't. And so children have over time changed. Generations have changed. The children we are having a different culture altogether compared to us. Okay, so culture also causes less bonding. Some parents think when they tell their daughter they are beautiful, they are trying to cause them not to be good girls. They're going to be proud, and I don't think that is what it is. Let a child be told beautiful. If you feel you want, if a child has done well in school, you say you're proud of them. These are some of the things that many times, by the way, we talk about. It's not that I'm giving you new words, but we keep reminding ourselves of these things. And also mother deprivation. So some children have not had mothers. And a child who doesn't grow with a mother sometimes may face difficulty if they don't get a mother figure, another mother to replace the mother. Maybe they have passed on, or maybe because of divorce and separation, and the mother has gone. And so that also is likely to cause the child not to bond. So how do we create a bond with children? For those of you who have babies, babies need to be held. People my generation, my age group, might remember that our mothers were putting us at the back. At the back. And that is very beautiful for a child. Today's children may not be put at the back. The young mother's backs are sickly and so many things. Or sometimes it may not look cool if you're passing through Kampala City and your child is on the back. But a child who is between 3 and 6 months needs to be held, to be put in the chest, to just to be held, compared to putting them somewhere and you keep watching them and oh, they're in their own bed, baby cot, and you give them toys and they are alone. Show you show the child that you are listening. Babies can make different noises. Some of them look meaningless, feel or sound meaningless, but they are communicating. And they will listen to you when you talk back. Help your baby to calm down when they are upset. A baby can be upset because they have seen a stranger. A baby, or you need to also identify the types of cries for those who are young mothers. A child might cry and you know this is a hunger cry. A child cries and you know this is a pain cry. For example, when they're given an injection, there's a way they cry. When they're hungry, they have a tendency to cry repeatedly. Or when they're scared, so that they are attended to. Not saying, let the child she will be used, let her stay there, she will be used. Respond to your baby's needs, respond to your baby's emotional needs for mothers. Get affectionate with your children. I remember I was invited to speak in a certain school, one of our good schools, and that day I gave a hug to a few girls, and the girls were so happy that I had hugged them, so happy. And I'm not necessarily a very hugging person. I had to learn when I knew that girls and the boys love to be hugged. So when I meet teenagers, for me, even boys, the boys are taller than me, I give them hugs, and because if it makes them feel nice, then why not? The children need us to have affection. Some of you are doing it. Some others say, well, the child is big enough. They know that I love them. Yes, they know, and you truly love them, but we need to be more affectionate, more than the way we are. Share your experience with other mothers. It is important for mothers to ask other mothers, how are you managing this? My child cries the whole night. What happens? My child, and so you share the experiences. The mothers are going to tell you how they manage. Share with even older mothers. There's a tendency for young mothers thinking older mothers don't know some of these things, but they know and they have gone through them, and there is a success story that the children have grown. Share with them or people you trust. Give children quality time. Quality time, meaning that we should be intentional. Now, this applies to both babies, teenagers, and youth. Because when we give quality time, they are going to open to us. They're going to tell us how a certain teacher harasses them. I'm just saying that, not saying that I have a teacher in mind. They're going to tell you how a neighbor, their cousin in your very own house is disturbing them. When you don't give them quality time, when you're not affectionate, they are going to struggle with the relatives in the house. Like, for example, me, I have girls. So you cannot take it for granted that girls will live with the boy in the house and you are there and you are sure, meaning like another relative or many people look after, or even in the neighborhood. When you're closer, they'll openly tell you, I am not comfortable with this person. And then you know that maybe this person is making some advances. Or you might even attack them, or you might leave them in the house, cousins and cousins. I'm not saying you throw away your relatives, no, but to be, let me call it, hyper vigilant. Sometimes the same mothers we follow up. Yes, these are our children. I don't think following up, knowing what is happening, I am trying to help where I can to protect children. Where I am not, I know that I wasn't there. Hold your babies, the younger mothers, be at the level of your child, discuss your childhood stories. Children love us to tell them what we wear, what did we do at their age. Appreciate your children. Your children do very many good things. They are smart. I just read a story, I don't know whether it's true, but on social media, where a girl committed suicide because she was not appreciated. And then she was good. And by the way, also from experience, there was a girl who wanted to commit suicide because the mother was not appreciating her. And I could understand the mother is trying to work hard for this girl. She was a single mom. And she's trying to tell the girl, you have to be the best, you have to be the best. So there was so much pressure on the girl. And the girl said, I cannot manage my mother's standard. I am better off dead. Okay, so let's appreciate our children. Some children are A children, others are medium. Not all our children are going to be doctors, not all our children are going to be engineers. And you can never tell what God has in store for this child. The one you're thinking is failing in class might be the one to take care of the intelligent ones, in quotes. I know that all our children are intelligent, they're all gifted differently, and that as parents and caregivers and teachers, let us appreciate that difference. Many of us are parents, and we know that at one point, we were not all the best in class. We were not all the best sports women in the school team. We were not all prefects. But you find someone who has never been a prefect, in not even a guild person in university, but they are the ones managing. So let's know that we need to nurture these children, and they can do they can go to their best in whatever field God has blessed. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, I am ready for them. God bless you. Back to you, Susan.